right, so I came out this evening to send a few arrows down range and I get a little practice in. And as I was unpacking my gear, I realized that I left my rangefinder back at home. As I was driving in, I dropped my target off down there. I drove here. And I started thinking, because I like to shoot at longer ranges with my bow, somewhere in the kind of that 80 to 100 yard range. And I started assessing the risk versus the uncertainty of how far I was. And it got me thinking about business. But just quickly, before I get into a lot of this video, let me do this. Can you guys check this out? Where's that? Can you see that? Great view of the moon. Coming up over those mountains, and then you got that sunset going down over those mountains. This is gonna be a quick video. I don't have a lot of light left. I got to thinking about risk versus uncertainty, how that plays a role in our day-to-day lives, also how that plays a significant role in our business. I think so many people get into a business thinking that risk and uncertainty are two things that are really, really similar, when in fact they're vastly different. Risk is the understanding and knowing the probability or the odds of success or failure. Uncertainty is not knowing what the probability or the odds are. So for example, if I roll a 6-sided die, I know that there's a 1 in 6 chance that my number is going to come up every time I roll the die. If I don't know how many sides there are and I don't know what that is, that's uncertainty. People, I think, assume that because they identify that there's a lot of things that they're uncertain about, that they're minimizing risk, when in fact they're not at all. They're not at all. There is, to have risk, right, you have to have exposure. So, for example, as this was going down, I pulled out this arrow. This is probably my worst arrow. It's maybe a $30 arrow. Now look, I think I'm roughly about 50 yards. Something really bad is going to happen for me to miss that target altogether. I might not hit where I want to hit, but something really bad would have to happen for me to miss altogether, and for me to have an exposure of losing $30 arrow. To have risk, you have to have exposure. In this case, the exposure is a $30 arrow. If you're starting your own business, it might be your family's life savings. If the probability, if my risk is a 1 in 6 chance for a $30 arrow, I'm probably willing to take that risk. Am I willing to risk my family's life savings on a 1 in 6 probability? Probably not. Probably not. But that's where everybody has their own level and tolerance for risk. And some people, they might view 1 in 6 as great odds, okay? Hey, here's another thing. I see this a lot, and I think there's a vast difference. If people can perform a task well, right? So for example, I think I'm 50 yards, give or take. I'm really confident in my Bowtech RPM 360. I'm really confident in this Hoggett sight that if I put this 50-yard pin on that target, this arrow is going to fly 50 yards. I have a lot of confidence because I practice a lot with this bow. I think a lot of people think that having confidence at doing a skill set relative to a business, for example, we're in the transportation industry. If someone is really good and really safe at driving a truck and they're really confident, they think that transitions really, really well over to running a trucking business. Oftentimes what's happening is they're misconstruing confidence and competence. Just because you're confident at doing one thing really well doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a lot of competence at doing something else that's similar. I think that's a big thing I wish people could understand. All right, first shot of the day, let's send it. We're getting short on light. I want to talk about all right, so this is timely and not intentional. Bear with me and I'll tell you about the last topic. All right, anticipation. I can't shoot in sunglasses. As I look down my peep sight, my eye actually comes in contact with the frame and I can't see. Here's another thing. The people that are really successful in business, they have the ability to anticipate things long before they happen. They're just really good at identifying a lot of those types of things, it allows them to not have to be so reactive when something bad happens. And that has the opportunity to save a lot of money and reduce a lot of exposure if they have anticipated the bad things happening and how they're going to react accordingly. Kind of a perfect example with the sunglasses. I didn't anticipate that very well. All right, so not a bad shot. Actually, there's probably a lot more luck there than there is anything else, not being able to see it. But again, I've sent a lot of arrows into that target and through that bow. So again, a lot of confidence in knowing I can execute. Understand there's a big difference between risk and uncertainty. Understand you have to have exposure. Understand there's a big difference between confidence and competence. I'm losing my lighting, huh? That's a little better. There's a big difference between confidence and competence. Be real and be honest with yourself or your business partners, assessing that level of confidence versus competence. Check your ego at the door, right? Surround yourself with really good people. And lastly, don't be afraid to think through a whole host of circumstances before they happen. Hope this is helpful. Hey, as always, you guys stay safe. I'm going to send a few more arrows downrange before I lose daylight. You guys stay safe. Take care.